First I've got to say I'm an absolute, unashamed, conservative Mitt-head, and
that's nice.
I think that Americans have been dreaming of having a competent, upstanding businessman in the White House for the last 60 years, and we finally have a chance. And if we miss it, I worry about the future of the country for my little girl Penny here. But I was wondering if you could maybe speak to an experience, maybe in your service with your church or in the private sector, or as governor, an event or experience that really kind of changed your perspective or your worldview, or kind of fundamentally changed the way you view the situation.
Well, I'll tell you one that it's not one that you all have, but you've seen these Mormon missionaries that drive around on their bicycles with the little tags on their shirt. You know, I grew up in a home with a great deal of affluence. My parents had done very well. My dad had grown up poor. He wanted us to work hard, but as an American, I had everything I needed. And I was asked to go off by my church to go live in France. Now, France is not exactly a third world country, obviously. But when we go there, we live on our own savings, and they had a limit. We were able to receive, I think it was $110 a month from our savings. Now, that would be the equivalent today, because this was back in the late 1960s. That would be equivalent to maybe $500 or $600 a month in today's dollars. And with that, we had to buy our clothing, our food, our rent, virtually everything we had. Our transportation all came out of about $500 or $600 a month. So you know you're not living high on the hog at that kind of level. And so I lived with people in France who lived very modestly. A number of the apartments I lived in when I was there didn't have toilets. We had instead the little pads on the ground. Okay, you know how that works, all right? There was a chain behind you with kind of a bucket affair. I had not experienced one of those in the United States. Most of the apartments I lived in had no refrigerators. I don't actually recall any of them having a refrigerator. That we shopped before every meal. Most of the apartments I lived in had no shower or bathtub. In some cases, there were buildings that had showers. You go in, you'd pay a couple of francs, and you could get a shower. We do that once a week. Or if we were lucky, we actually bought a hose and stuck it on the sink, and we'd hold there with the hose and the big bucket, big tub underneath us. We'd put in the kitchen and wash ourselves that way. And so I lived in a way that the people of lower middle income in France lived, and I said to myself, wow, I sure am lucky to be born in the United States of America. And I began to appreciate the freedoms and the gifts that come by virtue of having been in this country. I said to myself, gosh, going to school is kind of important. And getting as much education as I can and doing as well as I can is important. That changed my perspective. Before that, school was sort of something that, was sort of fun to do, and everybody was wanting to go to college, and isn't that a fun thing? And college is a lot of fun. When I came home after being there for 2.5 years, I was looking forward to getting an education so that I could lift my family and recognize that what I was doing had long-term implications. It was a wake-up experience for me. I was 19 years old. I came back. I was 21 and a half or so, and on the car ride home from the airport, when I arrived at the airport, my family was there. My mom and dad, my sister, a few other people I can't remember, but my girlfriend was also there. and she was there to welcome me home. And we got in the very back row of the car and drove home. And on the ride back, I turned to her and I said, I just feel the same about you as I did 2.5 years ago when I left. She said, I feel the same about you. I said, do we want to get married? She said, yeah. So when we got home, we told our parents we were going to get married in a couple of weeks. They weren't wild about that idea. They held it off for 3 months, but we did get married. And I became much more serious about my life, about education, about the person I would settle with, about raising a family. It matured me in great ways.